Hey guys, welcome to my build update for Scalebreaker for my Stam DK. It's gonna be my Stam DK PvE DPS. I originally did this build back in when Elsewhere launched. I'm running the same build for a while, but I put this build out with Elsewhere. I want to update it for you guys. Only a few things I'm changing. I'll go over the whole build, obviously. Um, I'll go sort of run down the whole build and I'll do a parse just so you guys can see it. Very few changes for this patch. I'll start right off with gear. Gear hasn't changed except for one thing. So I'm still running one light, one heavy Veladreth for the Undaunted passive. The extra health. It's gonna be extra health, extra stam, extra mag. If you go and look here, these two passives. This one here, specifically Undaunted Metal, gives you extra health, stam, and magicka for each different piece you wear. So that's why I wear one medium, one light, and one heavy. Heavy helm, it gives you more armor. It's a bigger piece, it gives you more armor. And then light shoulders is because it's the lighter of the two. I just want more armor on my helmet. And then I actually wear non-perfected Reli. You can wear Perfected Reli if you want. I've only farmed like half a set. I'm just not in guilds that run this a ton. And on veteran. So I just run regular Reli. The regular Reli, all divines, all stamina enchants. Right? All divines, all stamina enchants. I've heard a few people argue for infused on the big pieces. I suppose you could probably do that. I don't think the DPS would be that big of a difference. And then I run, I still run AY, Advanced Yoketa. I run all three Bloodthirsty, all weapon damage enchants. You can run Deadly, you can run AY. The damage is pretty similar. I've tested both sets a ton. I use both sets a ton. It really kind of depends on the fight too. Like there's certain fights where like on the twins in VMAW, like you're swapping so much that sometimes you'll lose your AY stacks if you're not on top of it. So like basically putting that Deadly on your front bar, like you're wearing jewelry and weapons of Deadly, you're kind of you're using more burst and it's not as big a deal. Like you're not using AY, so if you drop stacks, it's fine. You drop a lot of burst damage on those bosses when you switch using Deadly. Deadly's fine, AY is fine, Locustes is really good. I have Locustes. I like AY. Locustes is really good if you're in a group that gives you a lot of synergies. Although this patch, that's changed a little bit. Yeah, Locustes is fine. Perfected Locustes is fine. Deadly is fine. I use AY. The DPS difference between AY and Deadly's pretty small. Locustes is a little higher. Perfected Locustes, I think I'm missing a dagger. I think that's all I have left. So still Nirnhone main hand with a poison damage enchant, still using Sharpen with a disease damage enchant. You can use the Absorb Stam enchant on that. I think I have it on... let's see. Yeah, there it is. So that enchant, Absorb Stam enchant, you do physical damage, and then you'll gain back Stam. They nerfed that enchant when they nerfed the dual wield offhand enchant last patch. But you can still use that, like if you're having like regen issues. The regen's really small, but it's not awful. I do not use double damage poisons. You can if you want. These poisons. You can use these poisons if you want. You basically put them here on your front bar. I don't use these either. I have them. I can use them. Again, I've tested this. The DPS is sort of small. DPS difference is sort of hit or miss. Okay, so the only real gear change from this patch is this. So, Master's Bow is slightly better than this bow, the VMA bow. It's slightly better. I don't even think I have it on me. Yeah, I think it's on my alt. Here, I'll pull it up. So, this bow here, the Maelstrom bow, I'm going to show you guys a diagram in a second. We tested this, so, where did I put it? This bow, you want to run it infused. So if you're going to run Maelstrom bow or you're going to run the Master's bow, run them infused with a weapon damage enchant. So that's the bow. So this is the bow we used last patch. This bow is really good for AoE damage, and it's pretty good single target still. And then this bow, basically this bow, it increases your weapon damage against targets affected by your poison arrows. So that's going to be like your poison injection. So anytime your poison injection is active, you get 301 weapon damage to like all your abilities, right? Or you can use this one, which increases the damage of your volley by 320 each tick. Bonus increases 110 every time the volley ticks. So that's going to be your like arrow barrage or your endless hail. So I'll show you guys the difference real quick. Let me pull this up. So we tested this. So if you look at this document here, so if you look at this document here, so we tested this in the PTS, and for me on the Stam DK with my rotation, endless hail was not as good. You can see even with both bows, it's bad. Right, with both bows, endless hail is bad. On a different class with a different rotation, or if you have a Stam DK with a different rotation, you could maybe take more use of this endless hail. Endless hail, basically they nerfed, they changed it around, and they changed the duration, and they changed like the way it ticks. So like basically this, to me, with my Stam DK rotation, I won't be using endless hail anymore. I will not be using endless hail anymore. Even if I was to switch back to VMA bow, which you can see it's like 78121 and like 79, like the DPS difference is really small. Like to me, it's small enough where like if you have a VMA bow and you have trouble with Master's bow, like don't worry about it, right? Like don't kill yourself to farm the Master's bow, or if you have a Master's bow and VMA kicks your butt, don't worry about farming that VMA bow, right? Like you should farm it, but like you can have one or the other. Like you can have one or the other, which is really nice. That's actually really good balance. This is obviously, it looks like it's best in slot, but it's not by much. It's like a teeny tiny amount. So don't let anyone tell you that VMA bow is bad. It's not. You look at the numbers that we tested here. It's pretty close. With the exception of like this is a really low parse, and then like this is a really low parse, right? So it kind of tosses the numbers a little bit, but like this parse and this parse were real similar, and you can see what it averaged out to. So I wanted to show you guys that I'm using personally. I'll be using my VDSA bow. It's Vet Dragon Star Arena. You can farm this bow. Whoops. You can farm this bow if you go. If you go to Craglorn here, it's in Craglorn. It's right here, in northern, like north. What is that? Northwestern Craglorn. It's right here. You have to do it on Vet. It's group content, it's 4-man content. That's where you farm that bow. Maelstrom bow, obviously you're gonna farm from Maelstrom Arena here. You have to do it on Vet. It can be real difficult the first time you do it. But yeah, so Maelstrom bow has a chance to drop in here. That's solo content. And then VDSA bow, Vet Dragon Star Arena bow, or the Master's bow, like it's called, is farmed in here on Vet. It's 4-man content. But that's the only change for this patch. I'll be using a Master's bow. Again, it's not that much better, but it's a little better. Still use an infuse, still use a weapon damage enchant. That's all the gear changes. As far as food, I'm still running 20 in health, still running 44 in stam. I switched to Shadow like halfway through the last patch. It's better. It's just better. It's just better. So 20 in health, 44 in stam, Shadow Mundus. I'm a vamp. Stage 2 through stage 4 usually. Depends on what content I'm running. I do use Lava Foot Trees, so this was kind of the meta last patch. So 20 in health. Well, I guess depending on your class and your race. So I'm an Orc, so it's going to be 20 in health and then 44 in stam. And then what you do is you use this food, and it balances out your health, like in your stam. So you still have stam recovery. You have a ton of stam recovery, but you get like 4,500 stam and like 451 stam recovery. So it all sort of balances out. If you look at my hair, I'll pull this back up. If you look at my stats, I have like 15.5 health, almost 15.6 health. Stam's a little low, but what you don't take into account is if you're in a dungeon or like a raid, You should be getting War Horns and you should be getting Combat Prayer, and both of those things, if you look at this, both those things give you stamina, max stamina and max magicka, and Combat Prayer will give you, I'll pull it up. Combat Prayer will give you, is going to heal you. I want to say, I want to say one of the War Horns actually gives you health too. I thought it did, but either way, it's fine. 15-5 or 15-6 is enough. You're gonna get some extra health from your toughness with your wardens. You're gonna get some extra health from like Eben if you have a tank in Eben. Should be enough. If you're not comfortable with that amount of health, you can always put a glyph. What you can always do is you can always glyph this instead of a stamina glyph. You can use a health glyph. You should have enough health. If you're not comfortable with that, put a health glyph on one of your big pieces, either your chest or your pants. But that's that. None of this has really changed. The Mundus changed like halfway through last patch. The 20 health, 24 or 20 health, 44 stam, and then Shadow Mundus, and then Lava Foot to trees. As far as CP goes, hasn't changed from last patch at all. 56 thumb, 56 precise strikes, 60 piercing, 61 mighty. 37 Master at Arms. That's it. That's it for the blue tree. Let you guys get a look at this again. Red tree is going to change depending on what content I'm running. If you have any questions about like specific content and like CP setups, you can ask me in the comments. Definitely leave me a comment. I can help you out with that. There's different charts and stuff for different. There's different charts and stuff for different CP setups for different content. I almost always run like 15 in quick recovery though. So here, gonna run 31 in Warlord, 27 Sprinter, 75 Mooncalf, and 75 Tenacity. I don't run 100 in each of these because that extra 25 points for 1% is a loss to me. I just don't do that. And then 31 Shadow Ward and 31 Tumbling. And that's it for CP. It hasn't changed at all, I don't think, since last patch. I can go back and look at the video, but I don't think this has changed at all. All right, so that's done. So CP's done. Gear is done. Skill. Yeah, let's cover skills. So, a couple things. There's only really, I think, one thing or two things I've changed from last patch. So I'm still gonna run Rending Slashes, or still gonna run Venomous Claw. Still gonna run Rending Slashes. Still gonna run Barb Trap. They changed this so it doesn't reset anymore. It doesn't reset anymore, but the damage is still really good. I think they buffed the damage, if I remember in the patch notes. They buffed the damage, but they don't let it rearm. Damage is still really good. Running Barb Trap. The other morph still sucks. If you look at the other morph, it's not even close. It's like it does like half the damage. It's terrible. What? Please. Stop it. Still gonna run Noxious Breath as a spammable. Don't use Rending Slashes, and I don't use VMA weapons on my Stam DK. I'll explain why in a second. I haven't since last patch, so still using this as spammable. It's still really awesome. It's Noxious Breath. Gonna want to slot Molten Whip here. They nerf the spell damage that you get from these, but it's still worth running. So basically, what happens is when you slot this Molten Whip, if you're not familiar with this build, when you slot Molten Whip while slotted, whenever you activate a different Ardent Flame ability, you gain a stack of Seething Fury, which increases your damage of your next Molten Whip by 33%, and your weapon and spell damage by 75 for 5 seconds. It used to be, I think it was, I want to say it was 100 or 90. They nerfed it a little bit. It's not actually that. The nerf sucks, right? Any nerf sucks, but it's not worth not slotting. And this effect can stack up to 3 times. So what happens is, when you use an Ardent Flame ability, which are these, so Claw, your Noxious Breath, or your Flames of Oblivion, you gain a stack of Seething Fury, so you gain 75 weapon damage for 5 seconds. As long as you keep refreshing that, you'll get the what is it, 75, 150, 225, I think, weapon damage off the top of my head. So yeah, so you'll keep that 225 weapon damage. That's a lot. But this has to be slotted. I'm going to tell you right now. This has to be... Hold on. Sorry. So this has to be slotted to gain a stack, and do not let anyone tell you that it doesn't. So if this isn't slotted, and use this ability, and this isn't slotted in your bar, you don't gain a stack. Just putting that out there. I've had a ton of people ask me this last patch, like, oh, no, you have to have it slotted to gain the stack, which is why I don't use rapid strikes, but I'll get there in a second. So, still using Dawnbreaker. So they changed this, so now anytime you activate it, you get 300 weapon damage for 20 seconds. So they took the passive weapon damage off it, but the problem is, so you still get, for having it slotted, we had a long conversation about this last night on my Twitch stream. So you still get the 3% weapon damage for slotting it, right? But you don't get the extra, whatever it was, 8% for having it slotted, just for having Dawnbreaker slotted. But there's not really, like, there's other stuff situationally you can slot here. Like, we're not really using this ultimate. We're going to be using our standard. You're going to use this ultimate, like, I'll use this ultimate, like, in a trash pull if I'm going to die. Because anytime DK uses an ultimate, you get an equal amount of, like, stam health magicka back. When you cast an ultimate ability, you restore 46 health, 46 magicka, and 46 stam for each point of the ultimate cost. So, like, if you're in a boss fight, or you're, like, in a trash pack fight, either in a dungeon or trial, and you sincerely think you're gonna die, like, a healer's not gonna get you, and you have that ultimate, you can drop it. You can drop that ultimate, and it'll give you that extra boost to health and stam and magicka. It's kind of a nice oh damn button. But it is situational, and you're not using that. So some alternatives you theoretically could run, but I won't run, is you could run a barrier. You could run a barrier just as extra help, right? And just front bar it. And if you think your group is going to die, and you're, like, progressing through content, I always say, like, dead DPS don't do any DPS, and a dead group doesn't clear content. So, like, the DPS loss, you're only going to lose, theoretically, you're only going to lose, like, 3% weapon damage for half your group staying alive. That makes sense? Good slot barrier, especially if you're in a prog group, and you're having a fight you're having a lot of trouble on clearing, right? It doesn't matter what your DPS is if you don't clear the content. Could also run a couple other things. Could run, I don't have Werewolf. Could run Werewolf ult. So the problem with Werewolf ult is, as a Vamp, I get 10% magic and stam recovery. As a Vamp, I have to slot the ultimate, and I only get 15% stam recovery. So, like, not only are you losing... if you're not a Vamp, you don't have to be a Vamp. But if you're not a Vamp, I'd say you could probably run that Werewolf ultimate. But as a Vamp... I'm already getting 10%, and I'm losing... I already have, like, almost 1,500 stam recovery, and I'm losing Flawless Dawnbreaker, which is 3% weapon damage. And, I'm already running 10 anyway, so it only... Basically, going from Vamp to Werewolf, just to slot that ultimate that you're not going to use... Right? Like, you're not going to use that ultimate, it's just going to be for the 15%. You're only gaining 5% stam recovery from being a vampire. And you're losing 3% weapon damage, so it's kind of a loss. Don't have to be a Vamp. Don't have to be a Werewolf. But if you are a Werewolf, you can slot that. That's an option. Couple things. You could also run this. You could also run this dual wield ultimate for, like, AoE situations. So, like, if you're in VMA, or, like, if you're in like VHOF, like, there's some fights, or, like, in certain dungeons, like, there's some fights that are really heavy. The new dungeons that just came out with Scalebreaker have some really ridiculous ad fights. You could slot this, like, situationally, right, to kill ads with. None of these passives actually give you anything for slotting that ultimate, which I kind of wish they'd change. But, it's situational. You can also run the bow. You can also run, like, Ballista, which is nice because you can drop it and forget it. Does a ton of damage. Problem with that is, again, none of these passives actually give you anything for using it. Like, Dawnbreaker gives you an extra 3% weapon damage for having it slotted. Yeah, Dawnbreaker's in a weird spot. I don't like the change, but it is what it is. Especially in Stam DK. Because we have an ultimate. That's the only ultimate we're ever going to use. In Standard Might. So again, you can use Ballista. Yeah, you could even use, like... You can even use magma, right? If you want to be super selfish and not die, maybe in a dungeon. You can even slot like magma shell or corrosive. But for this build, I'll pretty much be slotting Dawnbreaker. The only other ultimate I think I might slot, if I do like a prog group, is probably Barrier. Replenishing or reviving, they're both fine. Sorry, I got a little bit of a cold today. So, I'm keeping Dawnbreaker on my bar, and that's why I'm keeping it on my bar. Like I said, there's a couple other ultimates you could slot. I won't be doing that. I'll just be leaving that. As far as back bar, so I went with Arrow Barrage. I showed you earlier why I went with Arrow Barrage, especially in the Stam DK with this particular rotation. That's why I went with Arrow Barrage. So this is an interesting argument that's going back and forth. So I personally am using Consuming Trap. Seen other people with other builds. So basically what they did is for this patch, this is important. So they changed the way this ability works, and it scales dynamically now. So if you have more stam, it basically will do so if you see the higher tooltip is going to be physical damage. The damage is dealt based on your highest offensive stats, so it'll be physical damage. Or if you are a magic character, it'll like your magic damage will be a lot higher, so it'll scale off of that. It's really interesting. So basically what they did is they increased the cost of Caltrap. They basically gutted Caltraps for PvE. What they did is here, I'll pull it up. So they increased the cost. They increased the cost and they nerfed the damage pretty significantly. So we were all looking at it and trying to figure out an alternative. And so what they did is they made this essentially Caltraps. Now what's interesting about this is Soul Splitting Trap is a couple different targets. But that's your AoE morph, and Consuming Trap is your single target morph. At the risk of sounding greedy, I'm on a Stam DK, and I already don't do a ton of cleave. So I'm personally probably going to use this Consuming Trap unless I get into like a situation where like my cleave is getting the group killed, right? I know it sounds super selfish, but like, I'm personally probably going to be running Consuming Trap. The damage is so much higher. The single target damage is so much higher. And what a lot of people I don't think take into account is this portion at the bottom where it says if an affected enemy dies, you heal for 3,000, but you also restore 2,000 magicka and like 59, almost 6,000 stamina. 6,000 stamina, guys, that's almost like a fourth of my stamina. Look how much stamina I'm running. I'm only running like 30k stam. That's not buffed. But that's almost like a fourth of my stamina. That's a lot of stamina if an ad dies. So what you could potentially is that's not only good on ad pulls, but like if you have a boss you're fighting and they spawn an ad, you could tag an ad with that and kill it and get a fourth of your stam back. Fantastic. Especially with them nerfing the way orbs are spammed, right? Like, yeah, I personally I like this other morph, Consuming Trap. Consuming Trap is going to be your better single target morph, and you're going to get a little more regen when you kill things. And Soul Spinning Trap is going to be essentially a replacement for Caltraps. Either one is fine. You want to do more single target damage, get a little more regen from killing things, use Consuming Trap. That's what I'll be using. You want to do some more AoE, use Soul Spinning Trap. That's basically it. So Arrow Barrage, like I said, I've tested this. Arrow Barrage is better, especially with using the VDSA bow, because you don't have to worry about keeping this up as much. Because if it falls off of the VDSA or with the VMA bow, like your parse is boned, right? And then Consuming Trap, and then Flames of Oblivion on the back bar. Still, Flames of Oblivion is on the back bar so we can keep our Seething Fury stacks up. That's why Molten Whip is there. I double bar this. That kind of goes into that conversation of why I don't use VMA weapons and Rapid Strikes. I haven't at all in a long time. Especially since this whip changed last patch. I like to double bar this whip. If you're gonna use Rapid Strikes, what you can do is you can take Noxious Breath off your bar, especially if you're in like a group of the tank. You can take Noxious Breath off your bar, put Rapid Strikes there. You can put Rapid Strikes there. The only problem with that is you're gonna have to essentially rapid strikes and then use venomous claw and then bar swap. So you can get your stacks, so you can keep your stacks up, like if that makes sense, because you can do arrow barrage and then consuming trap and then flames of oblivion, and you should have enough time to keep your stacks up. I just don't like that rapid strikes meta. Sam DKs don't have a lot of room on their bar. This rotation is so much easier. Although they did change VMA weapons, to be fair, here I'll show you guys. They did change VMA weapons. When you do damage with Flurry, your single target damage over time ability is used within 4 seconds, gain 1000 spell damage. So basically, they nerfed the spell damage by like half, but they made it so like you can do this. So like I'm not gonna do it, but basically what you can do is you can slot rapid strikes, and you can use rapid strikes, and then you could do like dot, right, and then you can do rapid strikes. You don't have to do like rapid strikes dot, rapid strikes dot, rapid strikes dot. They made it easier to use. So if you want to put rapid strikes here where Noxious Breath is, and then what you would have to do, like I said, is I'll have to do a separate build on this rotation, is rapid strikes, and then you could do like, if you're fast enough, actually, you could do rapid strikes, and then like dot, and then bar swap. You could do that. I don't know. You might have to rapid strikes again before you go on the back bar to refresh that 1000 weapon damage, but I'm not sure. I'd have to go look at it. But that's that. So basically, it's going to be Arrow Barrage, Consuming Trap, Flames of Oblivion, Poison Injection, and then Whip. Slot Whip there for the extra weapon damage, and then Standard of Might. As far as rotation goes, it's literally just going to be, and I'm going to do a rotation in a second, it's literally just going to be Venomous Claw, Light Attack, Rending Slashes, Light Attack, Barb Trap, Light Attack, Noxious Breath ×3 with light attacks in between, Bar Swap, Arrow Barrage. I actually do Arrow Barrage Light Attack. I don't do Light Attack Arrow Barrage because it seems to break the back bar. If you try and Light Attack and then Arrow Barrage, for some reason, I don't know if it's a global cooldown with like weapon swaps or what it is, but it just goofs it. If I do Arrow Barrage Light Attack, or Arrow Barrage Light Attack, Consuming Trap, Light Attack, Flames of Oblivion, Light Attack, Poison Injection, Bar Swap. I drop standards whenever they're up, and then I don't really use this unless... I don't think I'm going to get another ultimate. Like if the boss has like 1% health left, you can drop this or whatever just for the extra burst. Or like I said, if you're in some trouble and you don't think a healer is going to get to you, you can drop that ultimate for the extra health and stuff. It keeps you back as a Stam DK. But I think that's it. As far as, I mean, I'm an orc, obviously. I'm an orc. A couple passives you're going to want. Make sure you have medicinal use. Make sure potions last longer. Make sure if you can, you get this Undaunted passive here. I mean, I think that's it. You're obviously like your Fighter's Guild passives. I think that's it as far as an update goes. If you haven't checked out my other build video, if you have any questions, I think I break it down a little more as far as like what these passives do. Go check that out. Like I said, Vampire is optional. Soul Magic is not. You need this Consuming Trap or Splitting Trap. You have to have it. Some feedback I gave in the PTS, I kind of wish they would make this scale dynamically also. So like whenever your health drops below 20%, I kind of wish it would deal physical damage also and scale dynamically off your highest offensive stat. Maybe that's something to add in later and maybe knock that cooldown to like 1 minute. That's some feedback I gave in the PTS. They never changed it. That's okay. As far as you want all these passives, obviously. But I think that's it. I don't think I missed anything. Let's go ahead and do a parse real quick, and I'll show you guys what this hits like. Okay, guys. So enjoy this parse, guys. I did this parse on the live server last time. It's like the first thing I did. I would record another one. I'm lazy. Yeah, guys, enjoy this parse, and see you in just a sec.
Squander all your coins from the wishing well, an oasis of riches in your poor hell. It's a beggar's life you can't take any longer. You want the satin on your back, but no more. cause thunder in my brain. Every inch of skin you touch leaves me that burning pain. Hey!
All right, guys. So let me pause the video here and let me show you guys. So we got a pretty good amount. You can see we got a pretty good amount of weapon crit here. Like so let's just go from the top. So regen to drain is really good. You know, this is obviously standing still on a target dummy, but it's still really good. Weapon damage looks really good. Weapon crit looks really good. Crit damage is obviously really high. We're using shadow. All these tooltips look good. Let's keep going here. You can see our Seething Fury time is really good. That advancing Okeda uptime is pretty good. That's AY uptime. Yeah, we're gonna go to the back bar here. If you look at our rally uptime was like in the 90%. It was really good. We had a good amount of light attacks here. Light attacks could have come up a bit, but yeah, that's a pretty good parse, guys. So that'll wrap up the build video, guys. If you have any kind of questions at all about anything about the build, hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on my Discord. Hit me up in game. Leave me a comment here. Send me a message through whatever. Yeah, that'll be the build. This, like I said, this build is take this build anywhere. You can do any content in the game, but this build is easy. But yeah, those are all the changes for Scalebreaker. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in a comment. And I'll see you guys in the next one. See you guys in Scalebreaker. Bye. Bye, nerds. Bye.